Caitlin Clark helped launch the WNBA into a new era of visibility, selling out arenas and drawing national media attention. But that momentum just hit a wall. Instead of becoming the face of a rising league, she's now sidelined by a labor dispute that shut the whole operation down. The league's financial struggles are no secret, but with lucrative media deals set to triple revenues by 2026, the owners had a clear roadmap to stability. The players, however, wanted their share now, demanding a 50-50 revenue split despite the absence of profits. It's a demand that, by all metrics, the league couldn't meet. The result? Everything is frozen. Clark, along with every other player, is left with no league to play in and no clear future. The dispute over how fast the WNBA can grow has now halted growth entirely. And while the union hoped its hard stance would spark change, it may have stalled the very progress players were fighting for. What was once a breakthrough moment for the league has now become a cautionary tale in timing, tactics, and trust. The WNBA shutdown did not happen quietly. It landed like a blunt press release that nobody wanted to read, but everyone had to. Kathy Engelbert, the commissioner of the league, stood in front of cameras and tried to explain something that fans were still struggling to accept. The league had been shut down indefinitely because the labor talks between the players' union and the owners had collapsed. No season, no games, no momentum, just a league frozen in place while two sides argued over money and control.
If you're here for the real story and not the filtered version, subscribe. And if you're sticking around for the next meltdown, you better definitely subscribe.
Engelbert's message was not about drama. It was about reality. She laid out that the league is still not profitable and never has been. For years, the WNBA has survived with financial backing from the NBA and its owners. The goal, she kept saying, is sustainability. The league just signed new media deals that are expected to dramatically increase revenue starting in 2026. That future money is the reason owners believe they can finally build a profitable league, but is also the reason they refuse to promise revenue sharing now when the league is still losing money. The players' union sees it differently. They want a 50-50 split of revenue, like the NBA or NFL. On paper, that sounds fair. In practice, when there is no profit, it becomes impossible. Engelbert made it clear that the owners already offered major salary increases and better working conditions, but they will not agree to revenue sharing until the league is actually making money. The shutdown happened because neither side was willing to move off those positions. Adam Silver was pulled into this whether he wanted to be or not, because the NBA is the financial backbone of the WNBA. When he spoke about the dispute, he did not sugarcoat it. The WNBA is a growth project. It has cultural relevance, rising popularity, and a new generation of fans, but it still depends on investment from NBA owners to survive. That is not an insult to the league, it is the business model. Silver's comments underline what the owners are thinking. They are willing to keep investing, especially with massive media deals coming in 2026, but they cannot agree to a revenue split based on money that does not exist yet. He acknowledged that players deserve more pay and better conditions, and the owners already put that on the table. What he would not agree to is a financial structure that treats a money-losing league as if it were already profitable. This is where the standoff hardened. The players' union framed their demands as a matter of fairness and equality, comparing themselves to athletes in other major leagues. Silver's response, even when measured, pointed back to the numbers. Until the WNBA is profitable, those comparisons do not line up. The shutdown was not about whether women deserve to be paid. It was about whether a league that still runs in the red can promise money it does not have. Caitlin Clark did not create this labor dispute, but she became part of it the moment she arrived in the league and changed the level of attention it receives. Her name comes up constantly because she represents the surge in popularity that everyone is fighting over. When Clark spoke about the situation, she did not turn it into a political statement. She talked about wanting to play, wanting the league to grow, and wanting the momentum to continue. Her voice matters because she is the face of the new era. The league's upcoming media deals are not happening in a vacuum. They are happening because players like Clark have brought in ratings, ticket sales, and national conversation. That is exactly why the timing of this shutdown is so damaging. The league finally has a product that people are watching, and now it is risking going dark. Clark's comments stayed grounded. She did not attack the union, and she did not defend the owners. She focused on the reality that a lost season hurts everyone. It hurts players who rely on WNBA salaries. It hurts fans who just discover the league. And it hurts the long-term value that the owners are trying to build before the media money kicks in. The contrast between the negotiations and what is being lost is sharp. On the court, the league was finally riding a wave of attention that felt real. Arenas were fuller. Games were being talked about. Highlights were circulating beyond the usual basketball circles. That momentum is now sitting in limbo because the league and the union could not agree on how to split future money that has not arrived yet. Owners argue that this is the worst possible moment to blow things up. The new media deals are projected to triple league revenue starting in 2026. That kind of jump would finally give the WNBA a chance to move toward profitability. From their perspective, locking in revenue sharing before that money exists would mean risking the stability they have spent decades trying to build. The union sees the same future and wants a guarantee that players will get their share when it arrives. The problem is that the league is still losing money right now. Without profits, a 50-50 split is not a split of earnings, it is a split of losses. That is the core math neither side can escape. In interviews, Clark kept circling back to how fragile this moment is. She talked about how the league finally has the spotlight and how easy it is to lose that if fans stop paying attention. Her tone was not dramatic, but the implications were. A shutdown means no games to build on the popularity she and other stars have created. She also acknowledged that players want better pay and conditions, which is not controversial. The owners have already agreed to large salary increases as part of their proposal. The fight is not about whether players should be paid more. It is about whether they should get a guaranteed share of revenue before the league is profitable. Clark's interviews did not offer solutions, but they highlighted the risk. If the 2025 season disappears, the league loses a year of growth at the exact moment it needs to capitalize on its new audience. That is not something that can be easily replaced by a future TV deal. At press conferences, Clark was more careful, but the message stayed the same. She spoke about wanting to play, wanting the league to succeed, and wanting everyone to find a way forward. She did not echo the union's social justice framing, and she did not repeat the owner's financial warnings. She stayed focused on what is at stake if this drags on. The union, meanwhile, has leaned hard into framing the dispute as a broader fight for equality. They have used strong rhetoric and public demonstrations to pressure the league. According to the owners, that strategy has hurt public support more than it has helped. Fans who were just getting invested now see a league that cannot even start a season. The shutdown is the result of that standoff. The owners believe they're being responsible by refusing to promise money that does not exist. The union believes they are being shortchanged by being asked to wait for profits that might never come. Clark's press conferences became a quiet reminder that while both sides argue, the product itself is disappearing. When Engelbert and Clark are mentioned together, it is usually because they represent two sides of the league's future. Engelbert talks about media deals, growth, and sustainability. Clark embodies the reason those deals exist in the first place. The tension between those two realities is what turned this negotiation into a shutdown. Engelbert has been clear that the league needs to survive before it can share profits. Clark has been clear that the league needs to keep playing to stay relevant. Those positions are not actually in conflict, but the negotiation has turned them into opposing forces. The longer the shutdown lasts, the more both goals are undermined. This is why timing matters so much. If the league can reach profitability after 2026, revenue sharing becomes a real, grounded conversation. Doing it now, before that money arrives, risks collapsing the entire structure that is supposed to support players in the long run. There's a visible emotional weight on Clark when she talks about the shutdown, not because of politics, but because of lost opportunity. She knows what this season could have meant for the league. She knows how hard it is to build an audience. Seeing it put on hold is not abstract to her. It is personal. For players who depend on WNBA income, a lost season is not symbolic. It is a financial hit. Many players already go overseas to make more money. The league was finally in a position to improve that reality with higher salaries and more attention. The shutdown puts all of that at risk. This is the part that gets lost in the rhetoric. The owners' offers included big raises and better conditions. The union rejected them because they want revenue sharing now. The result is that nobody gets paid if there are no games. The images of Clark on the court now feel like something that is slipping away. They represent the momentum that the league had, the crowds, the coverage, and the sense that the WNBA was finally breaking into a bigger space in sports culture. That momentum is fragile, and it does not wait around for labor disputes to resolve themselves. The entire dispute comes down to a misalignment of expectations. Owners are focused on getting to profitability first. Players are focused on locking in their share of future revenue now. Both sides are looking at the same projected media money and drawing opposite conclusions about what it means today. If the union holds its ground and the season is lost, the damage could last longer than 1 year. Fans move on. Attention fades. The league loses the leverage that comes with relevance. That is the risk everyone is staring at, whether they admit it or not. This is not about whether women deserve to be paid. It is about whether a league that has never been profitable can promise to split revenue that has not arrived yet. The owners believe that waiting until the league is in the black is the only responsible path. The union believes that waiting means giving up leverage. The shutdown is the collision of those beliefs. If it continues, the 2025 season may be gone, and with it a huge chunk of the league's momentum. That is why this moment matters so much more than any single contract clause. If you want this league to survive and grow, this negotiation has to find a middle ground that respects both the financial reality and the players' desire for a fair future. Until then, the WNBA sits in limbo, and the cost of that delay grows every day. If you want to keep up with how this story unfolds, make sure to like the video, share it with other fans, leave your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe so you do not miss what happens next. Each highlight reel tells the same story. Caitlin Clark draining logo threes, packing arenas, and dragging the WNBA into a spotlight it's rarely seen. Her shots didn't just shift momentum in games. They shifted the league's cultural relevance. That's exactly why this shutdown hits so hard. What was supposed to be the next era has been yanked off the air mid-broadcast. Clark's ability to generate attention is what made these upcoming media deals possible in the first place. Her presence gave the owners leverage in negotiating with broadcasters, streaming services, and sponsors. It created measurable value. But that value disappears the moment there's nothing to televise, no games to stream, no highlights to clip. So when she steps back behind the three-point line and launches, that's not just a shot, it's a product. It's proof that people will watch. That's the part being sidelined. And when fans can't see their favorite players play, the product starts to evaporate. You can't build off momentum you've frozen. In press conferences, Clark has tried to stay above the fray. She knows her words carry weight, and she's not interested in being the voice of either camp. Still, a disappointment leaks through. This isn't how her rookie momentum was supposed to play out. 1 minute she's breaking records and pulling ratings. The next she's stuck watching negotiations turn into a full stop. She didn't directly criticize the union or the owners, but her message was clear. This shutdown doesn't serve the game, and it certainly doesn't serve the fans. The people who just started tuning in, buying jerseys, following the league on social media. Those people are now watching a void. Clark's press appearances weren't angry, but they were sobering. She reminded everyone that a career is short. Seasons matter. Missing even 1 year in a growing league like the WNBA isn't just a temporary pause. It's a long-term step back. Kathy Engelbert's job is to plan the future. Caitlin Clark's job is to be the future. But right now, they're stuck on opposite ends of a problem no one seems able to solve. Engelbert is still focused on protecting the league's economic health. Clark is still focused on playing basketball. And somewhere in between, the 2025 season is on life support. Engelbert says the owners are committed to growth. That's why they've been investing in marketing, raising salaries, improving travel conditions. They believe in the product, but they also believe in numbers, and the numbers say the league is still deep in the red. Clark believes in the product too, because she is the product. She's the reason ticket prices jumped, why broadcasters are lining up to get a piece of the next media deal. But none of that happens if the season doesn't exist. The longer the standoff drags, the less value there is left to fight over. When Clark speaks, she's not trying to score political points. Her focus stays on the floor. She talks about how far the league has come and how much more potential is on the table. But underneath it all, there's frustration. Not loud, not bitter, just the quiet kind that comes from watching progress stall. She's not naive. She understands that players want fair compensation. She knows the conditions haven't always been good, but she also knows what's at risk. Losing the 2025 season doesn't just cost players their paychecks. It costs them cultural capital. It costs them the narrative they've been building since her name entered the league. Clark's message isn't suck it up. It's don't blow it. Take the salary increases. Take the better conditions. Keep playing. Get to the point where the league is profitable. Then come back to the table for revenue sharing. Because negotiating from strength beats negotiating from... There's a different tone when the cameras catch her off court. Clark looks tired. Not physically, emotionally. This wasn't the path anyone expected. After skyrocketing from college stardom into professional hype, the momentum was undeniable. She was changing the game, and now the game is gone. She hasn't lashed out, but the sadness is visible. For her, this isn't just about checks or contracts. It's about losing time, about seeing the league finally get a real shot at mainstream relevance and watching it trip over its own ambition. Clark's frustration mirrors that of fans who feel like they finally had something worth following, only for it to vanish. Not because of injury, not because of scandal, but because two sides couldn't agree on how to split something that doesn't yet exist. Adam Silver isn't a WNBA spokesperson, but he's always been the financial anchor holding the league up. And when he spoke about the situation, it was with a kind of executive fatigue. The NBA has spent millions subsidizing the WNBA. That's not charity, it's investment. And Silver's concern now is that the return on that investment is being jeopardized. He emphasized again that the owners have put real offers on the table. Bigger salaries, better resources. The promise of more once revenue increases. But asking for a 50-50 revenue share now, when the league is still losing money, doesn't make financial sense. It's not a moral judgment, it's a math problem. Silver's comments weren't fiery. They were practical. The owners can't commit to profit sharing until there are profits. If the union can't accept that, then there might be no league to share anything from. It's a warning that feels less like a threat and more like a weather forecast. Rewatching clips from last season, you see what's being lost. Fast breaks, sold-out arenas, rising stars colliding with legends. It finally felt like the WNBA was stepping into the next phase of its evolution. And now it's paused, not because of lack of interest, not because of talent shortage, but because of a business impasse. What's wild is how avoidable it feels. The media deals are already signed. The revenue increase is already coming. It's not a question of if, but when. Owners are saying, ride this wave now, secure the financial base, and we'll share the pot once it exists. The union is saying, we want our cut guaranteed, or we won't play. That's the standoff. And while they fight over a future check, the present product collects dust. Games aren't being played. Fans aren't being converted. The league, for the first time in a long time, feels silent. Engelbert keeps repeating the same phrase in different ways, sustainability. For her, that's the whole project. Yes, the league has gained popularity. Yes, viewership is up. And yes, people care more than ever. But none of that pays the bills on its own. Without revenue, there is no league. Without profit, there is no foundation to share. She's not denying the players' importance. She's acknowledging the league's fragility. Building a financially viable sports league doesn't happen because people cheer louder. It happens because the economics line up. And right now, they still don't. Her critics call her cautious. She calls it responsible. Because offering revenue sharing before the revenue arrives isn't innovation, it's risk. And if the league folds under that risk, then all this progress is wasted. When Clark sits for interviews now, the tone has changed. Earlier in the season, it was all about excitement. New chapter, fresh energy, league on the rise. Now it's measured, controlled, like she's trying not to let the disappointment take over. She talks about how important this moment was, about how close the WNBA was to becoming something bigger. And she's right. There's a version of this story where the league rides the wave of Clark's stardom, grows audience share, signs huge media deals, and then returns to the table to negotiate from strength. That version ends in shared profits and long-term success. But that version doesn't include a lost season. And that's the fork in the road everyone's staring down right now. When Clark sat at her last press conference before the shutdown became official, there was a visible shift. This wasn't the wide-eyed rookie soaking in the lights and cameras. This was a player coming to terms with the fact that her momentum, the league's momentum, was being parked indefinitely. Her answers were measured, but the disappointment cut through anyway. She kept saying she wanted to play. She wanted to keep building. She wanted the league to succeed. What she didn't say, but everyone could hear anyway, was that this moment feels like a betrayal of the fans, of the product, of the players who've been working for decades to get the league to this point. There's no game plan for a shutdown in your first season. There's no way to practice for that kind of stall. She didn't ask to be the centerpiece of a league-wide crisis, but here she is, fielding questions she shouldn't have to answer, trying to protect the image of a league that's struggling to protect itself. Meanwhile, Engelbert is stuck between a rock and a reality check. Her job is to keep the league standing long enough to reach the promised land of 2026 media revenue. But that's 2 years away, and patience isn't exactly trending right now. She insists this isn't about choosing profits over players. It's about survival. It's about not letting short-term pressure derail long-term progress. Her concern is that if the league gives in to demands it can't afford yet, there may be nothing left to share later. She's not wrong about the stakes. But what's missing from her press circuit is urgency. The kind that matches the energy outside the boardroom. Because while owners calculate, players wait. While future revenue is debated, present-day value slips through the cracks. And while Engelbert talks about sustainability, the league's cultural moment is starting to drift. You scroll through the match photos, and it's like looking at a different timeline. Sold-out crowds. Viral highlights. The kind of buzz that only comes around when the game finally cracks through to the mainstream. It wasn't just hype. It was happening. Now all of that sits still. There are no new games, no updated stats, no highlight packages filling the social feeds. Just statements and silence, and a growing sense that the WNBA fumbled the bag at the exact moment it couldn't afford to. It didn't have to end like this, and maybe it still won't. But every day, without a season, chips away at the foundation everyone claims they want to protect. If you're still here watching, you're the kind of person who actually wants the league to win. Don't let this moment go quiet. Share the video. Drop your opinion in the comments, whether you're with the players, the owners, or just mad it's come to this. Hit subscribe because when, or if, this league gets back on the court, we'll be here. Every step of the way.